6:30 in the morning. Time to get going. Probably going to end up anchoring off Skye somewhere today. There's not going to be a lot of wind, so we won't be going anywhere fast. Maybe a day for a bit of fishing. Have to see. Surrounded by seals. God, it's cold though. 7 degrees C. At least the sun's out today. Going to be sunny all day, so it's sun cream day. Should get warm as the day goes on. Oh, it's a gorgeous spot. Time for one last cup of tea and then away. It's shallow here. Need to be away before the tide gets too low. Currently got 2 meters of tide, and there's 1 meter to 2 meters of water coming out of here, so I'll only have 1 meter or 2 under the keel, so I don't want to leave it too long, otherwise there'll be no water under the keel. And we're sailing. There's only 6 knots of wind, so we're not going to go anywhere quickly. 2 or 3 knots I think is about to be the maximum. I have to keep my eyes open for whales and dolphins and sort out that Genoa. But it's goodbye to egg. Thanks for an excellent night's sleep. We'll make our way over to Skye, which you can just about make out in the haze there. So I found myself in a quandary. The wind is currently from the north, but has gradually been backing towards northwest, and the forecast says it's going to back to northwest. But do I believe the forecast? Because if it's northwest, I won't be going up to the north of Skye. However, I'm currently heading straight for the Sound of Sleat. The question is, do I carry on heading up the Sound of Sleat, which means anchoring up somewhere to wait for the next good current to get through there, because the currents flow extremely fast and there's no way I can go against the current. So anchor up somewhere before the Narrows, and then set off again early tomorrow morning with the current flowing in the right direction. Or do I turn westward and head towards Rum and anchor in Rum overnight? Anchoring in Rum, that sounds rather fun. Oh God. I'm going to have to decide soon. Let's give it another hour, see what the wind does. If it does continue to back, then I absolutely won't be going along the south coast of Skye. It's a dilemma. However, the Sound of Sleat is good fun, and it will mean going under the Skye Bridge, which is also good fun. It requires a cup of tea and some thought. There's the wind shift. The wind's just died and is turning round to the northwest now. The autopilot is on wind vane mode, so it's just following the wind round. That might be the decision made. There's no way with this light wind I'm going to get far enough up the Sound of Sleat to make the Narrows before the tide turns. And now the wind's shifted, it's started to build back up again. So, due north, straight up the Sound, because that's where the wind says we should go. And let's face it, the wind said I should go to Eigg yesterday, and I saw whales. So sometimes just doing what the wind says you should do can pay off. Some people have names for that sort of thing. I'm not going to go labelling it. I'm just going with the flow. Oh, that sun's feeling nice and warm. Now there's not much wind. I have to take a couple of layers off. Awesome. Okay, so the wind is now west-northwest, which makes the decision even easier. I'm just coming into the Sound of Sleat. It's at this point where most people would give up and put the engine on. There's absolutely no wind. We're travelling down the Sound of Sleat at 1 knot because the current is pushing us that way. If I were to try and make the Narrows now, I'd need to motor hell for leather, which I'm sure many other skippers watching this will be saying, motor, put the motor on. No point. Oh, look at that. The wind's changed direction completely. Better do something about that. Maybe. No, I've decided not to bother. There isn't enough wind to make any difference. And it'll probably come back round again. We've been spinning round in circles anyway. See, told you, half an hour later the wind's back. Got 5 knots. So we're doing 2 knots in the right direction now. Woohoo! Well, seeing as we're bobbing around, not going anywhere very quickly, slow cooker's on. There's loads of power coming in. So that's red cabbage, leeks, onion. What else I put in there? Mushrooms. Yeah, there's always plenty of room, so I'll put some mushrooms in. And to finish the day, 18 knots of wind to take us up to the anchorage. Great fun. Well, that was exciting. Ended up with 25 knots of wind. I was belting towards the field of lobster pots outside the anchorage at 8 knots. Managed to get the general away and slow myself down, fortunately. Wow. Stressful. I hate lobster pots now. I really hate them with a vengeance. Anyway, we're almost there, look. That's our home for the night, with a couple of neighbours. More lobster pots in the anchorage. Great. That's Skye, and that's the entrance to Loch Horn. I'm looking forward to having my dinner. It's 5:15, so it'll be about 5:30 by the time I'm anchored. Going on 6 by the time I've got the boat put to bed. That was an awesome day sailing. I'm gonna say that was just cool. Had a bit of everything, and the wind was challenging at times, but finally made it and anchored. Getting ready for the rapids tomorrow. (9:45), another gorgeous day, and just getting ready to depart and head through the Narrows. Should have, once the tide has turned, a good 3.5 knots of current. There's no wind though. I'm hoping once I get out the other side there'll be a little bit of wind to hopefully get us up to Applecross Bay. There's plenty of places to go around there anyway. No shortage of beautiful little anchorages. Wind is going to come from the north and should strengthen later in the day, potentially to a force 5. If that's the case, we'll be cracking along, but doing 3 times as many miles because it's going to come from due north, or at least that's what the forecast says at the moment. I'll have another look after lunchtime and see what it says then. Right, time to get ready to go. Got the weirdest thing in the world. The depth transducer is reading 7 meters, but I'm in 150 meters of water. Now I know this is a submarine practice area, but that's really freaking me out. What the... Has anyone ever seen anything like that before? 5.6 meters. Christ, what is going on? Am I dragging something under the boat? I don't get that. That is really weird. It's still reading 7 meters. I've just upped the speed by a few knots. What the hell's going on? And I'm in 135 meters of water. That's freaky. It's getting me worried. Hope the depth sounder hasn't decided to pack in. One more thing broken, and all of a sudden it's working. Oh, hang on. Well, it just went to 100 odd meters. Now it's back to... What the hell is going on? That's where we're going, through the little gap there. The scenery is absolutely stunning. There's no wind whatsoever. Well, it's sorted itself out. It's now reading correctly. Now we're in shallower water. That really has freaked me out. I made a rapid course change and the depth went to 150 odd meters, and then all of a sudden was back at 12. Bonkers. I'll give it clean once I get through the channel, but that's really freaked me out. Scary. And the current has us now, and we've got wind. Typical. And a seal. Hello there, Mr. Seal. Hello, mate. Well, I would have liked to have sailed this bit, but as you can see, it's a sea of lobster pot markers that I'd be tacking between. That's... Never mind. I'm just terrified of lobster pot markers now. I mean, nightmare. I went to all the trouble of putting a reef in the main and getting the Genoa out. Sailed for about 10 minutes and then realised there were so many lobster pots. I basically was I was not going to be sailing through that long, which is a pain, but there we go. So this is the bridge between Skye and the mainland. The height of the span is 29 metres and I'm 17 metres, so I haven't really got a great deal to worry about. Doesn't stop you worrying though. I've checked the height 3 times this morning. And the depth sounder has been working absolutely fine ever since we got into the straits, so pretty sure there was something under the boat, whether it was seals or dolphins or just a shoal of fish, who knows. I made a rapid course correction and it suddenly hit 150 meters and then went back to 12, so something was messing with my head. Probably not a submarine, probably wildlife, but even so, crazy. Here we go, fingers crossed. Yay, we made it. Now, where are we going? That's the next question. Well, I've got outside and I'm sailing, but there's so many lobster pots out here as well. I'm having to keep a constant watch and course corrections and sail corrections. It's driving me mad. They're everywhere. Oh, we've got loads of wind. 20 knots. So I've got a reef in both sails. We're cracking along, doing 6 knots at the moment. And I have to tack before I hit the island. And then I think 2 more tacks to get to Applecross. Well, I've decided I've had enough of the northward beat for today, so I'm heading into Church Bay on Ramsey. I didn't really fancy another 4 hours of beating to wind, so snap decision. I'm just heading in towards Church Bay now. It's stunning when you're not beating to. That and the constant having to change course to avoid lobster pots. I'm having to tack more than I would like to. Dinner's in the slow cooker. It's leftovers today. Should be nice and warm by the time I get in. The scenery is just stunning in this anchorage. I remember this when I sailed down the straits here last year, and it was not great weather but just awe-inspiring scenery. That's Skye in the background there. The anchorage itself, we're sheltered here in the bay. The wind really rattles through the anchorage here, coming from the north, but we're sheltered, so it's not a problem. The holding's good. Although I did notice there's a submerged lobster pot buoy that looks like it's been there for a very long time. It's covered in growth. You can't see the colour of the buoy anymore. Just off to my starboard, just off to my port side, so I must remember to turn to starboard when I leave. I was lucky to miss that when I came in. Going to spend a day here, just giving my shoulder a break. I had a really serious car crash about 15 years ago now, and my right shoulder has never been the same since. I had 18 months of physio, and it's another reason why I want to do this trip now while I can, before I have to have electric winches, which will be a necessity at some point, I'm sure. Right now, just enjoying the view. The forecast is for the northerly winds to continue with 15 to 20 knots every day for the foreseeable future. Forecast foreseeable future, that is. That's not going to make it easy going, so I'm going to struggle because the only direction I can go from here is north. So given the state my shoulder's in at the moment, I think I'm probably going to have to take my time and have a break every now and then rather than sailing every day into the wind. We'll see. Weather forecast could be completely wrong. We're only talking about the models here, so quite often the models change on a daily or even 2 or 3 times a day basis. fingers crossed we either get some lighter winds or we get some northwesterlies maybe. That would be slightly easier. But with high pressure sitting over the UK and not looking like it's going to budge, the only wind we're going to get up here is going to be from the north or the northwest. At least it's sunny. It's not warm. Highest temperatures forecast are around 13 degrees. Most days it's 11 or 12. And with the wind chill on top of that, it doesn't feel that warm unless you get out the wind. Genuinely looking forward to getting further north, off the beaten track. Once I get over the top, of course, the northerly winds is perfect. Be sailing on beam, hopefully. Of course, by then it probably won't be northerly anymore. Hey, got to keep a positive outlook. It's hard work beating 2 all day and constantly having to tack because you're going up channels, but just got to remember why I'm doing this. I'm getting to Norway. And that view, my God, just awe-inspiring.